Hi, Tana Marshall here with your Feel Good Friday message, and I'm kind of doing a continuation of last week's message where I got a little teary because I did have the intention of doing a message about letting it out when you are grieving, and so I figured I'm just gonna keep talking, but we're splitting this up into 2 weeks. So if you've gone through a loss like I have, I lost my mom a few months ago. Everybody grieves in different ways. So you might completely fall apart and cry for a few weeks solid, and then it might taper off, or it might come in spurts, or maybe you're not a crier. Some people are just not criers, and that's just not how they express their grief. And it's all okay. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But I know with me, I've had a hard time having a big crying spell, which has surprised me because, this is my mom. I'm so close to both. I was so close to both of my parents, and I was with my mom 24 hours a day for so many years taking care of her, although the person who was my mom had been gone for a long time. But I still had a great relationship with this new person that showed up with the memory loss. She was very cute and sweet and funny and had no filter and would swear, which cracked me up because mom would never swear. She was a nursery school teacher. We weren't even allowed to say hell in the house. I said, "What the hell?" once, and she's like, "I will not have that kind of language in my house." And then she flipped me off once recently, and she said, "I'm not shitting you," once, and I'm like, "Who are you?" But anyway, so I've had bouts of crying, and it just hasn't come as much as I thought it would. And I've talked to people about this, and the fact is I've been grieving for a long time anyway. I'd been losing my mom for years, and the person who was my mom had been gone for quite a while. So that makes sense because I'd already been grieving that. I didn't have a lot of crying spells over the years. Sometimes I would because I was just tired and exhausted, and I missed my mom. But after she passed, I really thought that I would cry more. And it's come up here and there. I cried at her funeral. I had a really hard time holding it together, and I didn't even try to hold it together because that's what funerals are for. You're supposed to let it all out. But there have been things once in a while that have come up, and I'm going to allow myself to cry during this one. And I will have Kleenex, and hopefully I can just talk and just ignore the fact that I'm crying, because I'm just going to keep talking because that's what this one is for. So I apologize if I'm not as audible. But I had something happen the other day that had nothing to do with my mom. I just kept crying, and I couldn't stop crying, and I was like, what the hell? But I thought, no, this is good because I never cry. And I have this picture of my parents that I hug all the time, and I used to hug it when it was next to my mom's bed. And I would talk to my dad because I was overwhelmed and exhausted. And I could hear him talking to me going, "It's okay, little girl, just hang in there, you'll be fine." And now when I hug that picture, and I've said this before in previous messages, I feel my parents like they're there hugging me, and I know that they are. So it's really comforting. But I just had a really hard time pulling it together this whole day after I had this phone conversation with this friend. And but that's okay. And it's nice when those times come up, because if you don't let it out, or you can't let it out, or it's just not coming at different times, if something triggers it, just let it out, because it can cause physical problems if you try to suppress it. You keep it inside. Like right now, I'm trying to hold it together so I can talk to you, and I'm getting a headache and my jaw hurts. But if I let it all out right now, you won't be able to understand me, and I would prefer that you be able to understand me in this message. So I'm just taking every opportunity that comes up when something does trigger it for me. I let it out, and it feels really good. It's a good release. And I know this from the past. One of my best friends died in 1992 of AIDS, and I cried. My street is really noisy. I'm sorry if you can hear the traffic going by. I'm sorry. I cried solid for about 6 months. And I told my coworkers, I'm like, I'm going to be crying a lot. Just ignore me. Just deal with it. And even though I was grieving so much and I felt so much pain because of losing him, it felt really good. And I never got sick during that time. And I just felt cleansed and lighter whenever I had a big crying spell, and just allowing myself to let it out. So let it out. Allow yourself to cry and grieve in any way that is a good release for you. And it doesn't have to be over someone passing away. It can be over any kind of loss or anything that upsets you. Just let it out. And it's sometimes good if you have something that will trigger it for you, like a sad movie, if you have a hard time letting it out. And sometimes there's a delayed reaction. I'm trying to think of a couple of examples. There was one, I can't even believe how many coworkers I had pass away at Capitol, a lot, over 20 years. I can't even tell you how many funerals I went to. But we had this one coworker pass away, this guy that we didn't even know very well, but he was really sweet, really great guy. And he wound up dying in a car crash, very unexpectedly. And we were all sad. And I had this one coworker who, I love her. She's such a smart ass and no filter. And she didn't seem to be too affected by it, but we all went to the funeral, and at the funeral, she lost it. And again, as I've said before, sometimes a funeral is the time when people do lose it because you're so focused on the situation and the person and the loss, and that's a great time to just let yourself go because everybody's grieving. A lot of people are going to be crying, and you don't feel so alone. So maybe that's a scenario that you need, the funeral of somebody, or maybe something that really solidifies a loss that you've suffered and really brings it to the forefront. And maybe you just didn't let yourself feel it, because I know with me, I've been staying busy and distracted, and I liked not having to think about it. Just like, la, 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 I can just pretend that mom is still napping in the bedroom and just not acknowledge that she's physically not here anymore. So, yeah. I'm just letting it out whenever it wants to come now. So that was a big release the other day. So I'm just going to tell you, let it out. Let it out. It's okay. And however you're most comfortable, if you like a private cry like I do, hopefully it'll happen for you when you're alone. Because it's hard to trigger it. Because believe me, I spent so many days going, okay, I should be crying. It just wasn't coming. You can't force it. And even if you haven't had a loss happen, we need it once in a while. You need a good cry. It's a really good cleanse for your body. Now I'm drained. And when you do that, you will be drained afterwards. So thank you for letting me cry on you a little bit. I feel like I cried on your shoulder a little bit. So thank you. I appreciate that. And if you're going through something like this, please consider me a shoulder to cry on, because I understand and I'm here for you. I get it. So, thank you for joining me again this week. And thank you for always hanging in there with me as I'm sharing all this stuff with all of these stages that I'm going through since my mom has passed away. I appreciate you being here. And with that said, if you do enjoy these videos, remember to subscribe. You jump over to my website, TanaMarshall.com, and join the mailing list. You'll get a special note from me that only goes out to my list. So I want to thank you again. Hope you have a great weekend. If you're dealing with the loss, you have been dealing with the loss, and something triggers a big old boohoo, let it out. You'll feel much better. And then allow yourself some recovery time from that, and you'll feel even better after that. And it'll be healthier for you. I'm going to go rest now. All right, have a great weekend. I'll see you next time.